Welcome to Meet the Candidate with your host, Sue Lonnie Madsen. Meet the Candidate is your opportunity to see local candidates and hear about the experiences that have shaped their lives. Meet the Candidate is a nonpartisan community project brought to you by our friends at Greater Spokane Incorporated, Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe, We Vote, and Better Spokane. Now, here's Sue Lonnie.
Hey, welcome to Meet the Candidate, and my guest today is Jered Gavin Bonneau.
Yes.
Welcome, Jered.
Thank you.
Glad you could join us, and you are a candidate for the 5th Congressional District representative position.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, this is an opportunity to get acquainted. I know that you have an interesting life story, but just starting with childhood, what are some significant parts of that story you want to share?
Oh, well, I grew up kind of everywhere as a child. Moved around a lot. I was born in Richland, Washington. Moved to Spokane when I was an infant, and then to Yakima, and back to Spokane. And I eventually left the state and wound up in New Mexico, in Albuquerque. I was homeschooled there, like 7th and 8th grade, homeschooled by my mom. That's where I actually watched the Twin Towers get attacked, and that was pretty terrifying when I was little. After there, I left there and went to Phoenix, Arizona. Lived there for about 6 years. And in that time, I kind of turned rebellious. I moved around all over the place, had no friends. It was always school to school, city to city. So I didn't really have anybody that were friends. I didn't have a good founding at that point. And so I turned rebellious, and through those rebellious years, I wound up homeless. I was homeless for a while, for about a year or so, and ended up getting a hold of my mom through a payphone, and she ended up getting me a bus ticket and sending me up here to live with my dad, and started getting my life back on track, and I've been back in the beautiful Northwest for the better part of about 11 years. Cool.
Yeah. I know that you're working now out at Medical Lake.
Yes.
I'm going to get it wrong. Is it you're working at Eastern State Hospital?
Yes.
Yeah, because my neighbor works with you there, and so that was how I've come to know of you.
Yeah.
So in the course of all that, when you got your life back on track, what kind of education or training did you seek out?
Well, I had dropped out of high school and attained my GED and got in the military.
That's doing it the hard way.
Yeah, and joined the military for a little bit, and so that's about all of my high school. It was just through my GED. But after coming back, get my life back on track, I obviously had to receive some training for nurse assistants, and then mental health training, which was on-the-job training. Basically, it was like a month-long course at the hospital to become a mental health technician. And through that, I really found that I loved nursing, and I loved my job and what I did there. And so I wanted to start pursuing a career in nursing. And so I went to NIC because they have an amazing nursing program there. And so I started attending NIC, doing my prerequisites. But through that, there was a lot of political things going on at that time. The Bunkerville standoff. We had a lot of things going on here with the We Will Not Comply rallies and things like that. And I was still pretty heavily involved in politics and really wanting to be part of that. So I was skipping classes and doing all these other things to be a part of those things and really try to stand up with the people and for our rights. And through that, I started slipping up on my grades, and then I realized that nursing might not be what I'm meant to do. I've always been in love with politics, in love with my country and my Constitution, and I really want to fight for those, fight for our country and fight for our constitutional values. So I steered my life into that direction.
Okay, so I was going to ask you about travel as part of education, but you traveled a lot around as a kid, and that was probably not the kind of education. That's it's really traumatic for a kid, really, to be uprooted that often. Yeah. Which, as a mental health technician now, you know that.
Absolutely.
You know how that works, ACEs and all of that, all those issues. What out of that life experience that really helps shape your view towards politics?
Well, my stepdad, who my mom married, when I was younger, and then my real dad, they both were pretty involved, in tune politically. You know, they listened to Michael Savage, they watched talk radios, they followed all the campaigns both locally and nationally, and through that, you know, I started to develop a love for politics, and you know, my stepdad actually had these placemats that he bought, and they were one had the Bill of Rights, and then the other one had presidents, like past president. I think it was 41 at that time, or maybe 40. I can't remember. But before I would leave the dinner table, he would have me try to recite the best I could at either the Bill of Rights or the past presidents of the time. And you know, through both my dad and my stepdad, I developed an understanding and a knowledge of our founding fathers, what all took place, our founding documents, and what that means to have freedoms and have rights.
Cool. What would you say is the biggest draw you have to staying in this area, since you've traveled around so much?
Well, I'm not sure about the biggest draw. I just, you know, got shipped back here by my mom, and through that, you know, I met my wife. I started attaining jobs, you know, blue collar jobs, working at, you know, paint factories and other things like that, warehouses, maintenance, and you know, through these jobs, I met my wife, and ever since then, I just, you know, I fell in love with her at almost first sight, and we.
You've put down roots now.
Yeah,
after
put down
that
roots,
childhood.
and the Northwest is just so beautiful here. When we experience all the seasons, it's so much better than the desert. I love it here.
Well, I'm glad you're getting roots into your life now.
Yes, thank you.
That's great. That's healthy. What prompted you to volunteer for elected office? I mean, it sounds like it's just that passion for politics is it. But why now? Why now? Why this year?
Well, we have a very stagnant political realm nationally. We have a lot of people that are part of the establishment, of their respective establishment, whether it be Republican or Democrat. And through that, you know, they're representing more of corporate interests and these big-time lobbyists and things of that nature, instead of representing the people and the local communities, local economies, and upholding and defending the Constitution and those values of the Constitution and the American values. And we've seen that here in Washington State, and it's grown to the point where we really need to go back and claim our offices back and make sure that our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, that those things are upheld and defended utmost. The utmost importance is to make sure that those things are defended and that the people are represented.
Well, you get the last word with the last question is, how do you see the duties of this elected office, and why should voters choose you?
So the voters should choose me because, well, you know, I've been homeless. I've been a hard worker. I've done blue-collar work my entire life. Mm-hmm. I know what it's like to struggle day in and day out, to live paycheck to paycheck. I know what it's like to have nothing, and I know what it's like to build onto that and make something of my life. And I know what it takes to come out of that struggle. And it's not something that I'll ever forget. It's something that's ingrained inside of me. And through that, I will always defend and protect the will of the people and the Constitution of these United States. I will represent the people of my state, of my district, and of my country. I will make sure that our local businesses, our local economies, the rural communities, that these things are strengthened and emboldened, and that these corporate interests and that these lobbyists no longer have a say over what this office does. I want to take that office back and give it back to we the people.
Okay, that's a strong pitch, Jered, and I thank you so much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Enjoy
the summer.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for watching Meet the Candidate. Spokane Talks thanks our community-minded partners, Greater Spokane Incorporated, the Ponderosa Republican Women's Club, We Believe We Vote, and Better Spokane for helping make Meet the Candidate possible.